kind of a brain twist for you, but um, if you have that, that will set you apart. That's your signature. That's something that nobody else could have done. Yeah, we are back again. Good morning. I am about to go to the gym, and you're going to ask yourself, then why are you putting Vaseline on your face? It's because I wash my face, and if I don't, my face will feel dry. So that is that. Yeah, so we are about to go to the gym. To be honest, I haven't worked out in 2 days because my back, lower back was killing me. But but yeah, we have to make that. Yeah, we have to make up for that. Normally, I do not work out on Saturdays. It's a Saturday today, but I skipped 2 days, so I have to go Saturday and Sunday. That aside, today we're talking about personal branding. So I want to talk about personal branding. It's because of a post that I made on Instagram, and I just want to not Instagram, LinkedIn, and I just want to give you my insight on that. Personal branding for me is how you are, well, positioning is how you're perceived in the minds of others. If you follow this channel, if you watch these videos, you've heard me say that a billion times. Oh, wait, that's my alarm. That's my alarm to wake up. I woke up a bit earlier. So, yeah, positioning is how you're perceived in the minds of others. It's the real estate, so to speak, the space you take up in the minds of others. I'm just now thinking I probably look like a mess because I literally just woke up and I dragged myself out of bed because I have to go to the gym. Yeah. So, yeah, the space that you take up in the minds of others, this is something that you cannot control. This is completely out of your control. I cannot control what you think about me. You might be seeing me for the first time thinking, my God, this guy looks like a mess. Trust me, I don't. I just woke up and I'm going to the gym, but immediately you have a judgment towards me, whether it's positive or negative. This is something that I cannot control. That's positioning. That is just basically what people think about you. That's that. Personal branding. And with personal branding, however, we are trying to influence that. So it's us acting, trying our best to influence how people see us. So you can see me like a mess right now, and I convince you that I'm not that, but still you're thinking that. And then in later videos, when I'm all dolled up, you can see me again and you'll think, oh my gosh, it was just a one time thing. It's not. It's not. It's not a one time thing. It depends when you catch me. Now you're catching me going to the gym, just waking up, and actually having a long night because I spent yesterday the whole day editing, which I said I would not. I don't like to edit my videos. I like to keep them raw, and I didn't over edit. Basically, what I did was just add music, but it was such a long, interesting video that I had to put some effort into it. So yeah, I'm losing my train of thought today. So personal branding is influencing that. It's doing things that make people think or see you in another light. That's it. It's rebuilding or, yeah, actively, intentionally building that reputation that you have in people's mind. Okay? So that's what we mean with personal branding. So someone came to me asking me, how do I build a personal brand? Which is a phenomenal question. And today we're going to answer that question in a way that I didn't do for that person because they asked me this question and I basically said, I'm not going to answer this question, but I'm going to ask you questions instead. And there are three questions that you should ask yourself instead. And today we're going to do that. So the first question, let me look at what I wrote down because I want to get it line for line. So this is my LinkedIn post. I was asked, how do I build a personal brand? But I refused to give him the strategy, this person. Instead, I asked him three questions. Question number one that you have to ask yourself when building a personal brand. I'm running a bit late, by the way, so I'll answer my questions as we go. And somewhere in between, today's going to be a sit down vlog No, it was going to be a head talk and vlog because you're going with me to the gym. I promised you that last time. So we're going to answer this question throughout the session of here to the gym and back. Make sense? Okay, cool. So, question number one that I'll answer right now or ask you right now, and I want you to think about this. If you're watching this video, you might be a seasoned expert, someone who's looking to change careers, someone who is has all the experiences but just not getting the visibility. It has to do with your personal branding. It has to do with your reputation. It has to do with how others see you. And in order to fix this, you need to ask yourself these questions. So the first question is this: what have you built that nobody else could have built? And this is a question you need to ask yourself. Is there something that you've built in the X amount of years that nobody else has done? For me, for example, I've been in brand strategy for 15 years. And I've built a strategy called, or framework or strategy. I use those words simultaneously. I built a framework called NICE, NICE, Narrative, Insight, Connection, Execution. If you watch these videos, you know that. This is something that I've built that nobody else could build. And it's not because of the name of the thing, which somewhat, yes. It's because of the story behind it, right? It's because of the story behind it, something that I've lived that you watching this have not lived. And even if you've lived it, you've not lived it in my way. So I've built something that nobody else could have built. And that's question number one. What have you built that nobody else could have built? Now, deep dive and think in your journey. Is there something that you've built? Is there something that you've experienced? Right? In my framework, this is the narrative. Yeah, right? The narrative. Is there some story that you have that allows you to see differently that could help someone else? And that's the insight. Narrative. What is your story? Insight. What do you see that others don't? That's my framework. So in your life, in your professional life, in your personal life, have you experienced anything that other people might not have experienced? And is that something that you're willing to talk about? Because we all have stories, we've all experienced things, but yeah, sometimes we just don't dare talking about these things. We're afraid of talking about these things. And when you're building a personal brand, the word personal isn't in there for no reason. It's literally, I wrote this in a comment today. Someone was talking about personal branding and how important it is to put yourself into it. This was someone's LinkedIn post, by the way, and I commented under it. And I left a comment saying, your personal brand is literally you signing off or putting your DNA, your fingerprint all over it. Because anyone could write, like the thing that I wrote here, anyone could write that. But I signed off. I made it personal by saying this, and this is the last few sentences of this post. I'm not giving you the two other questions yet. I'll do that on my journey, but I'm going to tell you how I signed off because it has to do with question number one. And I said this is my fingerprint on it, so you know it's coming from me. I know this because I spent 10 years not knowing who I was at all, and rebuilding taught me that the brand was never the problem, the story was. So I signed off telling I spent 10 years not knowing who I was. But backstory is that I was in a cult for 10 years. So I have lived 10 years hiding my identity, hiding who I truly am. And that does something to you. That does change a person's perspective. That allows me to see things that you might not have seen, and allowed me to have insights to problems, solutions to problems that you might not have because you haven't lived that life. Now, back to question number one. Look back in your life, look back in your journey. Are there things that, are there things that you have built, have experienced that nobody else have? Are there problems or solutions that you've seen that nobody else could have seen. I know it's kind of a brain twist for you, but um, if you have that, that will set you apart. That's your signature. That's something that nobody else could have done. Okay? That's your fingerprint. Your narrative, your story, that is your fingerprint. Okay? So I'm running late. I got to get out. When I snap my fingers, we are in the car and I will dive into question number two. So let's get back to what we're talking about. So, question number two that you need to ask yourself when building a personal brand is this. And I'm reading it from the post, right? So, question number two, what would your best client say about you in secret? This is a big one because this fundamentally is your positioning. I just told you what positioning is. If you forgot, rewind. And this comes down to positioning, but also how you will intentionally try to influence that idea or their thought or how you're perceived. Because with question number two, you have clients, okay, in the past. So I speak to people, experts more often who are, VPs, founders, directors, people up there in position. They've been doing whatever they've been doing for a long time, at least a decade. So they have clients, they have people they've worked with. Then from those people, choose your best client. Choose your best person that worked with you. Choose that person and ask yourself, what would they say about you? And be very, very honest about this. I know all have egos. We all want to be the best or, want to be seen as the best. No, for this, you have to be very honest. What would your best client say about you? I'm not talking about your worst client. Your worst client will hate your guts. They will. People will find zero reason to hate you. But your best client, what would your best client say about you? Luckily for me, I have testimonials from my clients. But also, I can't use those because the question here is, what would your best client say about you in secret? So honestly, anonymously. And for you to do this, you could send you know, Google Forms to your clients and ask them to answer it anonymous. So, you just send out a bunch and they don't know who it's coming from. They filling out this, then you directly know, when they fill out this anonymously, you directly know okay, what they think about you. But you can also do this or answer this question just just thinking what would they say about me if they thought about me? Did I do a good job? Or, how would they see me? How would they perceive me? And of course, you can never know if you just think about it by yourself, but it's worth thinking about. Building a personal brand, you need to know what it is that you are trying to act on, what it is that you're trying to influence. If you don't know how they think about you, if you don't know how you're perceived, then you cannot influence it. The example I gave you earlier, you saw me just waking up and you might think, for the first time watching this video, you might think, oh my gosh, this guy looks horrible, right? That's a possibility. Then I can know that. I might see the comments where people are saying you look like a mess or I don't know. And then I can know that you're thinking that, and I could, if I wanted to, act on it. I could, get dolled up, get dressed up. But if no one cares and if anyone is just reacting to the substance of my video rather than the way I look, then I know, hey, they're here for just the message. They're here for the insights. They're here to learn something. And then I just continue, right? So see how that works? That is why we need to know how our clients, how people perceive us. And it's important in building a personal brand. If you're watching this video, you're an expert, professional, and you want to build a personal brand, think about these two things. So let me recap question number one and question number two. Question number one, what have you built that nobody else could have built? And question number two is, What would your best client say about you in secret? I need to get to the gym. When I snap my fingers, you'll be seeing me lifting some heavy weights. Just had my workout today. I worked out back and triceps. I believe I said back and biceps, but no, I did triceps. Okay, quick one. All right, so we're gonna get into question number 3 as I promised. You might hear my car starting up. You know what, let me turn this thing off. Okay, so let's get into question number 3 that you need to ask yourself. Let's see. Question number 3. Let's go back to the post. And let's get into question number 3. Okay, so question number 3 that you need to ask yourself when building a personal brand is this. What do you know that took years to learn? And that's very, very important. What is it that you know that took you a long time? And we underplay, my gosh, we underplay our skills. And I do that too. So recently I was in Bosnia at a B-roll. And while in Bosnia, I met Lara Acosta. She's a self-made millionaire and she does a lot. I think she started out as a ghostwriter and eventually, turned it into personal branding and built companies. So she's been in the game, it seems like she grew up overnight, but no, she's just been working very, very hard. So sat down with her. She's very, very introverted, like for real. It's insane that she's, banking now, having that personality that she has. But she would be the first to tell you that introverts are those who can succeed online. But anyways, I'm not an introvert, so maybe this is not a good statement for me. But she said she was doing her talk, and basically, we came down to the Q&As, and I raised my hand and I asked a question in the crowd, and the question was, how do I stand out with my personal brand? Because everyone is doing personal branding. So how do I stand out as a brand strategist doing personal brand? And she basically said the same thing. So what is it that that took you years to learn? Like, what is that? And what differentiates you from your competitor? And I sat there and I thought, I have 15 years of experience. My clients, they are returning clients, so they come back. I have a framework which I work with, and I've written a book. And she just stopped, like mid-sentence stopped and saying, what? You wrote a book? And I said, yeah, I wrote a book that is published and I'm on my 3rd book. So I wrote books, plural, but one is published currently. And she was like, she just stopped, like everyone just silent. You could hear a pin drop in the audience. And it's not because that I wrote a book. It's what she would say next. She was like, you guys need to stop being humble. Like, for real, stop being humble. And she took my example as, her case, saying, you wrote a book. That's someone that a lot of people want to do. That's something that that's something that a lot of people want to do. That's something that she herself would want to do in the future. And I've already done that. But we downplay our skills. We downplay our paths. We downplay our talents. Like, we downplay this all. And when she said that, I realized like, it took me a year to write my book. It was blood, sweat, and tears because I wrote a book when I was 21, just coming out of college. And no, actually in my first year of college, I told the teachers that I wanted to write a book, and they all said it was impossible and that there are even teachers who want to write a book. And I just said to one of the teachers, and she will say that I told her this. I said, within this year, I'm going to write a book. And I went to school like day and night. I stayed with a janitor. Like, the janitor had to let me out of the school, like day and night, just illustrating and writing and doing everything humanly possible for 1 full year to write that book. Back then I had grit. I knew what I wanted to do and I went in, full force. And
So the book was written, a publisher picked it up, and that's pretty much it. And when she said that, it made me think like, I know how these things work. I know how to write a book. That's even a skill that I could teach people, like, okay, what is necessary? What is needed to write a book? How do you make chapters? How do you make sure that the story is still interesting? So all of that stuff, I was like, my gosh, I've been downplaying that skill, but it's also a skill that separates me. And she basically just, gave me a slap in the face, figuratively, and said, yeah, that's what sets you apart. And think of more things and more skills that you have that set you apart. And that's what I want to give you today. Ask yourself, and I keep looking here because I'm looking at the question to reframe it so that you have it. What do you know that took you years to learn? What is that thing or things, plural, that you know that took you years and that people are willing to pay money for? What is that thing? And when you know that thing or things, lean into that. Don't downplay it. It could be a hobby that you have been doing for years. It could be something as simple as a hobby that you love to do, that you've been doing for years, and that's something that you are known for, but not known for publicly, only among your friends and families. And go into that, like full force. Go into that, lean into that, and talk about it every chance you get, right? So these 3 questions, I'm going to say them all again. I'm going to read them aloud again so that you have them. And then I'm going to tell you something about a comment that someone left under my post and my reply to it, because that is also important. So question number 1 that you need to ask yourself when building a personal brand: what have you built that nobody else could have built? Question number 2, what would your best clients say about you in secret? Question number 3, what do you know that took you years to learn? Right? You have these, answer these. Okay, don't just listen to me yapping. Answer these and start creating content. So I posted this and someone said, I had a lot of comments on these, but one comment stood out. Let me see, most recent. Give me a sec. Yeah, so Jack said this. He said the second question is the one that does the heavy lifting. So the second question was, what would your best client say about you in secret? And he said, second question does the heavy lifting. What your best client says about you when you're not there is basically your brand already. The other 2 are interesting, but that one is the whole answer if you're honest about it. I disagree to that. Fully, I disagree, because you do need the other 2 questions. And I answered him in this manner. I understand what you mean. When we think about personal branding, it's how you're perceived in the minds of others, right? We talked about that. In that case, question number 2 answers that. However, when building a personal brand that gets you clients, you need to have an offer. And without an offer, there is no answer to question number 2. So if you have no offer, question number 1 is, what do you know that took you years to learn? That is basically your offer, your product, something that someone is willing to put money down for. That's your offer. If you don't have an offer, you don't have clients. So with question number 2, what would your best clients say about you in secret? If you don't have an offer, you don't have clients. And question number 1 is also equally important, because what have you built that nobody else could have built? If you don't have number 3, you don't have number 1. And if you don't have number 1 and 3 questions, you don't have question number 2. I get his point. You need to know what others think about you in order to build a personal brand. But in order to build a personal brand intentionally and monetize that brand, when we're talking about personal brand, it's not just for the fun. It's for you to get bank, for you to get paid, right? Like Laura Costa, she built a personal brand and now she's earning millions. Yes, millions. Then you need to have an offer. You need to have clients, right? So yeah, this sums up the questions for today. As you know, I'm building my personal brand in public. I do this professionally. I build personal brands for experts. If you're that expert or experts, you might be together listening to this, and you want to know more, check out my LinkedIn. Other than that, YouTube, my YouTube channel offers long form, right? Free content, free of charge. So you don't have to pay for this. Feel free to like, subscribe. I would appreciate that. But most important, I wanted to say more important, but most importantly, I want you to leave me a comment and let me know what you want to know so that I can make this interactive. And also, before I say goodbye, short form content, I've just started out my Instagram, my Instagram page, and it's going to be this, but short form. You get to see behind the scenes, you get to see me in the gym, but all just short form. And yeah, so if you're someone who doesn't like to watch these long videos, then just go to my Instagram. In the future, I will do clips. So instead of a 20, 30 minutes, an hour long video, I'll break that down into 5 to 10 minutes clips, but I haven't started that yet. So for short form content, go to my Instagram page. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something about personal branding, and let me know if you like the way that this video flowed. Okay, so I can keep iterating. Is that the word? Iterating. I can keep doing it. Cool. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here, and I'm gonna say peace. See you next time.